Hello, this is Dr. Don White, and this podcast provides an overview of how to set up the DuPage County Regional Office of Education self-evaluation tool. This file is a companion to the evaluation tool. The files look very much the same. However, the self-evaluation tool is used by the person being evaluated. The evaluation tool is used by the evaluator. Perhaps it's the superintendent evaluating a principal. If that's the case, the principal would be using the self-evaluation tool. There are two key times that this file would be used. At the beginning of year to set up the standards and indicators, and then near the end of the evaluation cycle, perhaps in January, when the administrator needs to complete the self-evaluation. The file opens to some background information, and the first worksheet, titled Directions and Information, gives a general overview of how to use this file. I strongly encourage you to read these directions and to pay attention to the comments throughout the program, as they provide helpful tips on how to use the program efficiently and effectively. The yellow worksheets provide information that may be helpful as you complete the worksheets. To set up this self-evaluation file at the beginning of the year, there are three worksheets that the administrator needs to visit. The first worksheet is the Eval Info and Rankings worksheet. First step is to enter the demographic information at the top. Notice that the cells are red. When I enter information and then move on to the next cell, the cells will turn white. Now that that's entered, I will never need to enter that type of information in this file for the rest of the year. The next step is to determine the percentages for each of the P-cell standards. This would be aligned to what was entered in the evaluation tool being used by the evaluator, in this case the superintendent. As I look at that file, I can see that we have determined that each standard will be weighted at 10%. Those 10% numbers should be added to the self-evaluation file so that they mirror each other. I also notice in the evaluation tool that the percentages for professional standards for educational leader indicators, the additional components, and the self-evaluation percentages have also been entered, with a subtotal for professional practice of 70% and student growth being 30%. That information should also be entered into the self-evaluation. Also, the professional practice rating ranges have been entered and should be the same in the self-evaluation file. Likewise for student growth ratings and summative ratings ranges. Lastly, in the evaluation tool, the professional practice and summative rating labels have also been selected, so the self-evaluation file should mirror these. Now I'm going back to the self-evaluation file and entering 10% for the weighting of each standard. Notice that the red cells are gone for that area. As I move down, the overall evaluation ratings percentages have already been entered. The professional practice rating ranges, student growth ratings ranges, and summative ratings ranges match what was in the evaluation tool. And the last piece of information on this worksheet is to select the professional practice labels and make sure that they are the same as what was in the evaluation tool. Now that that's complete, we can move on to the indicator selection worksheet. To select an indicator, simply click on the drop-down arrow and select yes or no. All of the indicators are selected no at this point. That was done to save time for the user. We need to make sure that the indicators that are selected are identical to those that have been selected in the evaluation tool, which is on your screen. After I am done selecting all of the indicators and they are identical to those selected in the evaluation tool, I can scroll to the bottom and see a table that displays the total number of indicators selected. In this case, I've selected 24 indicators out of a total of 78. When I look at the evaluation tool, I also notice the same number. That's important to make sure that you have the same number of indicators so that the administrator is using the same information when completing the self-evaluation tool. The next step that can be set up is the student growth ratings. When visiting this worksheet, you simply populate the information that is requested. For this demonstration, I'm entering math, reading, and SEL as the focus area. The types of assessment that I will be utilizing. For math, I will say a type 2, reading, type 2, and SEL, a type 3. And then the name of the assessment or the measure. And then the administrator would enter the goals for each of those content areas or focus areas. The assessment results cannot be completed until the end of the year. So at this point, the self-evaluation tool has been set up at the beginning of the year and is now ready for the second step, which will not occur until January or February when the administrator completes the self-evaluation itself.